So this is what the big boys in the oil and gas sector did last week. Seplat was down 6.40%. Owando lost 3.61%. Forte Oil was up 4.18%. But what you see there was the market finishing line on Friday for those big seven. Owando was a single positive reading on Friday, 1.04% after persistent decline in the week we just finished, almost 2 million ordinary shares. The rest of the stocks in that space were unchanged. In total, the sector was down 3.05%. And that's where we started this conversation, taking a look at some of these. How do we trade these stocks and taking a look at them? From Afrinvest, we will have one of the investment research analysts, Omotola Abimbola, live here in the studios to take us through some of this. Then later on the program, he'll give us his views as far as the September MPC meeting starting today is concerned. Omotola, good morning.
Good morning, boss.
It's good to have you here. So let's start this conversation around the oil and gas and, of course, the big boys there. Let's start with Forte Oil. And, of course, this is just what I've called a stock chart from this first by the name Stockman Investing. This is a little bit of what the stock chart looks for for Forte Oil, and you can see the point of your price uptake and the price downstick. Then you can see a little bit on the far right there where Forte Oil is currently trading, saying Forte Oil as high as close to 400 naira on the market, then currently trading around 50. Omotola, give us your views about Forte Oil. The news was in last week that this integrated energy trader, not just into retailing of oil, but also into power.
Correct.
With the Geregu power plant, says, look, we're not doing equity offering. But they did a bond, about 20 billion, about 10 billion or so, last year?
Earlier this year.
Earlier this year? Yeah, I think January, February.
They did. Apparently, last year at the HGM that was held, management was able to get approval from the board to raise about 100 billion in both debt and equity. So part of the debt portion was the 20 billion that they raised, earlier this year to optimize their operation and grow some of their assets in the downstream sector particularly. So about 2 months back, management also came out to announce that they'll be doing an equity capital raising by way of rights issue. I think about 20 billion naira as well, in order to further optimize their operation and deepen their market share in the downstream sector. But management also, last week, they came out to announce that they'll be putting off the rights issue at the moment because of the considerations they are taking in terms of their corporate restructuring. I guess what this implies is that rather than trying to increase their market share by raising capital, they're probably thinking about trying to optimize the asset that they have now and sweat it efficiently to generate returns to shareholder. And if you know the story about Forte Oil, you will know that it had disappointed quite a number of investors. About 2 years ago or 3 years back, when they bidded for the Geregu power plants via the vehicle they used, that's the Amperion energy that they used to acquire the assets, optimism was quite high that, for an energy trader who is already dominating the downstream sector, that they will go on to be a fully integrated energy company operating across the value chain and deliver returns to shareholders. But unfortunately, due to challenges we are seeing in the power sector, particularly liquidity issues in the power sector, they haven't been able to deliver on that promise. If you look at their financials, particularly for full year 2016, revenue was growing quite well, profits was growing, but look at their cash flow from operation is still negative. Particularly if you look at the annualized results for the last 12 months from H1 2017, they have a negative cash flow from operation as a result of the liquidity dilemma in the power sector. They're generating the power.
Liquidity.
They are selling it.
Problem in the oil marketing sector.
Yeah, there is there as well.
Those are two major sectors.
Correct. But fortunately enough, for the downstream sector, in the past 1 or 2 years, they've been able to resolve the liquidity issues in the downstream sector because the amount of subsidy payments, it has reduced. Last year, I think around May, the federal government, they implemented a partial deregulation of the downstream oil and gas sector and raised the price of petroleum products prices. So that resulted in the reduction, in subsidy that they have to pay to the downstream marketers. But still, it's still a very low margin business. If you're into downstream markets, and probably earning a margin between 5 to 3%, which is quite low So for Forte Hall, if you look at the share price now, at the beginning of this year, it was above 150 naira. It's trading at less than a third of that now, So maybe for some investors who have probably a medium to long-term focus, may probably take position in the company. Because to be quite frank, the outlook for the energy sector is actually improving, particularly for the power sector. Earlier in the year, federal government, in conjunction with the World Bank and some of their development partners, they implemented the power guarantee program that would ensure that gencos are paid for the power that they are delivering. So that's probably solve some of the liquidity issues going forward.
So you think some of the reforms, perhaps some of the reforms and the talk by the Minister of, Honorable Minister of Power, could be something good in the making for Forte Oil. We get a good power plant because that plant is one of the newest when it was purchased, one of the newest among what the government had. So it has little problem in terms of turnaround and what have you. And actually, they did a turnaround.
They did.
I think last year or some time ago, they've invested, according to the company, about $100 million into turning it around with the Siemens engineering, the German guys. So that looks like something that they're keeping at their back pocket.
It does.
Maybe that could be a game changer moving forward. It could be a game changer for Forte Oil. And so you look at this stock chart all over again, and you think that for mid to long-term investors, they could keep one permanent eye on this stock.
The company is sitting on very good assets. The issue they are facing is mostly regulatory, and that's bound to change sooner or later.
Sooner or later. Let's move on to Wando. Wando, and we're going to put out the stock chart there. Wando has been swimming in water. That's the stock price over the last. Look at that from the last. Hold on a second. About 8 years. That's what you can see the going just below the water from about 18 naira per share in about 2010. We've seen Wando down to about 3 naira per share, then currently trading below 6 naira per unit. Wando's story is already out there in the news.
Indeed.
But I'm going to ask you, where do you see a bit of a resistance for this level, for this stock? Where do you see support level as well?
If you are doing a proper valuation, right, an absolute valuation or relative valuation of Wando at current share price, you might be tempted to say it is probably good to take position in it, while expecting a medium-term rebound in the stock. But the reality is that sentiment is quite poor on it, due to the shareholder disagreements that the company is currently facing. Like Forte Oil, Wando has disappointed a lot of investors as well. When they decided to diversify into upstream business via the acquisition of ConocoPhillips assets, optimism was quite high, that the company holds just of promise. However, due to industry trend and partly fault of theirs as well, they haven't been able to deliver on that promise. As of the time when they were buying the ConocoPhillips assets, oil prices were quite high, above $100 per barrel. So the valuation they bought the asset then was also very high. Unfortunately, oil prices took a dive in 2014, and the company never recovered because they had to take in lots of leverage, debt, to fund the acquisition. So in the past 2 years, management have been trying to pay down on those debts, doing a lot of restructuring. They've sold part of their downstream business to
including gas
and power, to other investors in order to be able to pay down on the debt and deliver return to shareholders. However, the recent disappointment they are facing regarding shareholder disagreements on who is the majority shareholder of the company that has the controlling stake in Wando is taking a toll on the stock, which is why it has underperformed in the past 1 month.
So I'm looking at this. Share price, and I'm going to put that back up at around 5 naira 83 kobo per share, and all that. You think at this point where you have the arrow at the bottom right of Wando around 10:15 there, where this arrow was beginning to tip up, and of course it's falling down below that level. Again, you think there is no strong sentiment here that could move this stock up to another resistance level around 20 or 52 or even 80 back to 8-year high?
For short-term investors, we don't recommend Wando to them at the moment. Like I mentioned, sentiment is very poor. Of course, looking at the industry trend, things seem to be getting a bit better for them. Oil prices are up, which is very positive for their upstream business. Thanks to the resolution of Niger Delta crisis, they're now able to export crude from their main pipeline, which is very good for their assets. in half year 2017, they were able to report positive net income, although the result isn't audited. However, if you look at the trend in the industry now, there's a high likelihood that they're probably going to report positive net income in full year 2017. Nonetheless, right, due to the poor sentiment on the stock, coming from the corporate governance issues that they are facing and the shareholder disagreement, it is not optimal for a short-term investor to take the risk, of buying the stock at the moment. But for medium to long-term investors, maybe, if you have a very long holding period, it's one of the stocks for you to watch.